Today on the breakdown, it's just another 100k buy-in featuring Mikita Badziakouski on the bubble. No big whoops. Don't get too excited. Your heart rate should just be a steady ba-beep, ba-beep, ba-beep. And that is what the heart sounds like. I know medical doctors. I've met them before. So don't come at me. Don't at me, bro. On the breakdown with Grant Dennison and Jonathan Levy.
Wow, you just hit a wall there. It felt like you were going to go somewhere with that. And maybe you talk about like the medical industrial complex or something. That seems like up your alley to talk about. I don't know. What happened?
No, that was actually, it wasn't that I didn't have that material potentially there. I saw it all and decided to, sort of be counterintuitive and end in an abrupt way because I don't really do that. I usually go on too long, if anything. So I decided to go on too short this time because I've never really done that. I'm always trying to keep it fresh. You don't know what to expect
when they expect you to zag.
Exactly. Unless you're the receiver, that works well.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about. If we're talking about the cornerback, then you did well. If we're talking about the quarterback, then you did poorly. You see? Football is life, I guess.
Nice. That's a Ted Lasso reference, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't mean to, but yes, it is.
Yes. Great job.
Yeah, the show healed us all. All right.
They say what a great rapport we have, and we're really showing it off right now, I got to say.
Well, to be honest, something I said triggered a Siri response from my computer, so I couldn't hear what was going on for a second. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then everything's explained. You got to put that thing on Do Not Disturb, bro. I don't know if that'll help.
I prefer to let the AI overlords hear everything that I say so that they know I'm a good person when they decide who goes to heaven.
I mean, first of all, they hear everything you say no matter what you do. Please.
I just I want it to be clear that I'm opting in. I think there's something there to be like, hey, guess what? I'm okay with you. You're okay with me. We're chill. I get it.
Is that how you are with the cockroach who's like, hey, I'm just living in this little corner and I don't want to bother you, man? That you think that cockroach doesn't get stepped on /
If
killed?
A cockroach could actually convey that to me, I'd be like, you know what? Good point. If you promise not to like fuck with me when I'm sleeping or scare me.
They don't do that.
Yeah. If you're just going to chill, I'll even bring you some little pieces of bread or something. What do cockroaches eat? Bread? Do they eat bread?
Any food of any kind.
They will eat bread. You're telling me.
Yeah, oh yeah. They'll eat bread. You don't, dude, you would kill that cockroach so fast. I've seen you kill, how many things have I seen you murder in the 14 years that I've known you? And obviously not people. I'm not including people when I say this.
You don't include that.
Just non-people. Just non-people murder specifically. How many things have I seen you kill? Living things. It's got to be, I don't know, hundreds at least?
Sure. I'm sure you might have seen me go on like a kitchen ant killing spree once.
I probably have.
Yeah.
And maybe other things.
Have you ever killed a bunch of kitchen ants? Those little tiny ants that get in your kitchen?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm like the Punisher when it comes to those things. I'm like, come with me if you want to live, is another ant saying to that ant, but it's too late because I've already killed them both. Because you have to kill them. Otherwise, they just all come in. They're just like, hey, I heard the message, man. I heard there's a big party going on up here, a big food party. You got it. It sucks. I actually don't like doing it, but I'm like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Sorry, ants. I try not to kill things. I get worms here in Puerto Rico sometimes just crawling across my floor. Like once a day, I'll see a worm. And I just like put it outside every time. I don't kill the worm or anything. I don't want to kill these bugs.
Yet you do eat meat, right?
Yeah.
So what's that? What's going on there, man? Where's the moral compass?
It's a little different. Don't you think?
Because you didn't kill it?
Yeah. It's already dead versus it's alive right in front of me and I would end its life.
Speaking of industrial complexes, who's buying into that one and perpetuating it, huh?
I understand there's moral ambiguity with all this stuff, and you could even say there's some conflict there, but it's not the same thing either to physically end a life versus eating something that's already dead, right?
The life of a worm. The life of a worm. Are you one of those equivocators who thinks like the life of an ant is worth the same thing as the life of a human?
Yes. I think I think the life of an ant is worth the same as a human baby, not a normal human. So worth more. If I could kill you or an ant, that wasn't in my kitchen at least, I would have to kill you just based on my own moral code.
If I was in your kitchen, but I won't go in the kitchen. I'll stay in the dining room. But
I feel like you're going to tell other people about the kitchen and the food in there, and it's going to be the same problem. So I got to end you, buddy. And if I could just put you outside, I would, but you're heavy. No offense.
Yep.
You've got to get back to working out. I don't know.
Thank you.
You just had a kid. It's not your fault.
Thank you. I appreciate your words. Hey, Mikita Badziakouski, I feel like it's been a while since we did a Bads hand, and we've done a lot over the course of the breakdown, but it's been at least a year, it feels. Maybe longer.
Oh, it feels like, a basic eternity. And I miss my Mikita. Where is my Mikita? You've heard me complain about it.
If anybody watches the video associated with this, which is the Triton 100K, he is like coming out of his shell. He used to be kind of like buttoned up, like Soviet bloc. I'm quiet because I don't want to be oppressed guy. And now he's wearing like a weird like yellow, like I'm gonna box somebody hoodie. He's talking through his river decisions in like a Negreanu way. Yeah, it's all different.
That's cool. Good for him.
Yeah.
Get out there, Mikita.
Yeah, we've all been waiting for it, Mikita. We knew you had it in you. Let's see how he plays the hand.
I love it when people talk through their decisions, myself included, where you're just like, I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't think it almost ever costs you anything to do it. Oh, no, they can hear my thought process in this very particular spot. It's fine, almost always. I love doing it. It helps me, but I love listening to other people do it too.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah. That's why Negreanu, that's part of why Negreanu became such a sensation, right? Is because he was the guy doing that back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. Phil Hellmuth too in his own way, his own thought process.
In a far less jovial, fun way.
I'm just going to trap you with the nuts.
Yep.
Okay, Phil, we get it.
First, you have to have the nuts. It's not that easy. Okay, we're on the stone bubble of 100K. So
cool.
Serious money on the line. 160K is the minimum payout. What did you say? 3.8 million is first.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like over 100 entries in 100K. It's a big deal. We got Mikita Badziakouski. We have a player who's not at the table, mentioned by Randy Liu and I think Ali Najad, who is very short. They're like, Mikita opens queens under the gun. They're like, Mikita probably doesn't want to mix it up too much because of X player at this other table. So there must be a guy with like 2 blinds or something. So we're in a very serious bubble situation.
Okay.
Badziakouski has 2.5 million at 40K big blind. So he's not at risk, right? But, he's probably doesn't want to call a 5-bet all in with queens at this point.
Not. I would guess he's only calling 3-bets with queens most of the time.
I think we're going to find out.
Covered. Oh,
I think we're going to find out.
I don't know what happens in this hand, obviously.
So he's got just over 60 bigs. He opens the queens under the gun to 80K min open. Seems fine. And we've got a character at the table named Ossi Ketola. He's from Finland. He's come out of nowhere. We don't know anything about him, except that his first live tournament result on Hendon was from November of 2024. We're recording this in January of 2025. And he has a bunch of 6-figure entries, and he's already racked up over 4 million in earnings or something like that.
Just a little under, like 3.9. Yeah.
And he's loosely mentioned as a Finnish pro online, but there's not details on him. We don't know if he's an online crusher or just a cash player who has started playing tournaments. We just don't know.
We don't know. He has like 5 scores total on Hendon, but almost $4 million in earnings. So it's impressive in its own way.
Yeah, he's in the long line of the Finnish psychos, I think, starting with Zygmunt.
Cool. Is that what is he one of those? Okay.
Yeah. Right. He looks like a pretty young guy, so he's relatively new. He's got the same stack as Bads. He's got 2.5 million. I hope he doesn't mind being called Bads, by the way, because I'm doing it. I like it.
How could he mind? It's Bads Lands. Get it?
Yeah.
Bads.
Didn't they make a movie of that game that was not well received?
That's called Borderlands.
Oh,
and
close
it was
enough.
not well received, but Kate, what's her face, made a lot of money for being in it. Jack Black, Kevin Hart. I mean, let's go. Who doesn't want to see that movie?
That's called Jumanji, baby. Jumanji. Yeah. Jack Black and Kevin Hart.
Right.
The first Jumanji, by the way, was kind of enjoyable. I kind of enjoyed it.
I turned it off.
Well, the key is as soon as they go into the video game, that's when you smoke weed, right then. And that makes it more fun.
I see that now. I see that. That could be all right. Anyway, they're going to make more Jumanji, so don't worry, Grant.
I am not worried. I need more Dwayne Johnson content. I need him to play the same character every time. That's what I need.
Okay. Well, you're going to get it, so don't worry.
Thank you.
All right. Back to the hand,
so we've got the same stack. They're both just over 60 bigs.
Yep.
Ossi Ketola is going to reveal what type of a Finnish psycho he is on the bubble, where He doesn't cover Badziakouski, I don't think. They're close enough that I guess maybe Ossi knows that he has like one blind more than Badziakouski, and if this goes really poorly, he still has a chance to like make it through the blinds and can make the bubble money. I don't know. But he 3-bets the 5-3 of hearts to 210K from the cutoff over an under the gun open on the stone bubble. So this is almost disrespectful to Badziakouski. This is like what you do to the guy who is clearly scared on the bubble at your $500 tournament. You're like, you can't do shit about this. I know that you don't want to tangle with me right now. Right. Sorry, buddy. I just don't care as much as you, and that's going to hurt you. That's what Ossi Ketola is saying to Mikita Badziakouski right now.
Yeah, that's cool. If there's a dude somewhere else who's got 2 blinds, it's going to put Mikita in some weird spots right away, right? Like here we are. We're already in a weird spot. Not that weird. We're not going to fold queens yet, but there's an implication, especially if Ossi is a very aggressive fin, which I'm guessing he is, and I'm guessing Mikita knows this, that like it isn't like, oh, good news, we can call this and probably, not have to put in most of our stack by the river if we want to get to showdown, Like the implication is I'm going to be firing away on most streets most of the time, so do you really want to even start this up? You could just get out right now. Fold your ace-queen or ace-jack suited or whatever it is and get the hell out. Right. It's
so fun to watch the bubble dynamic play out at this high roller, right? Because everybody's experienced it who plays tournaments, but it's like, where do you draw the line? 5-3 of hearts is probably not a good enough hand if we're gonna try to bully the bubble against competent players, which obviously Mikita is. We probably should have a line of what hands we're doing it with. We should have some sort of blockers. We should have some sort of positional understanding of the situation. But maybe it's okay just to go pure psycho in every spot. Maybe it's overthinking it to think Mikita Badziakouski is good. We can't do this. But maybe the thing that works on the bubble of the main event at the World Series of Poker, where if you have the chip lead at the table, you can literally open 100% of hands and be profitable. Maybe that works here too, even against these players.
Maybe. Also, the fact that Mikita opened under the gun makes Ossi's 3-bet look stronger, right? Like if Mikita, like in some ways you always want to attack weak ranges, not strong ranges when you don't have it. If at all possible. But this makes your range look better. And if this is a spot where we're saying to ourselves as Ossi, like, I'm going to make him, he's going to have to put in a huge amount of chips to be able to get to showdown here. So my range is going to look strong all the way. Even if he knows I'm a psycho, I'm attacking Mikita Badziakouski's under the gun range. Like, that's a tight range, probably.
And there's literally one hand that Badziakouski is comfortable with right now in this exact scenario, and it's hard to have aces, right? So, there's a lot of value there. It's just like 5-3 of hearts. Is that? Should we be doing this?
Probably not. We should probably have King 5 of hearts probably plays way better as we have a blocker. We have an overcard to some of the hands that would call us. We're not connected, but. Ace 5 of hearts obviously makes a lot of sense. Any kind of ace in our hand makes, I think even unsuited probably makes more sense than 5-3 of hearts here.
Yes.
But maybe there's a secondary, subtext happening here, which is like they're fighting for control of the table on the bubble and for the rest of the tournament to some degree too, a little bit. I don't know. Mikita's not a guy to just mix it up like a psycho. He's much more thoughtful than that. And I don't mean thoughtful. He's also probably tighter than that. Like he's not going to just... I wouldn't expect Mikita to have 5-3 of hearts if the positions were reversed and be raising here. But maybe Ossi's like, I just want everyone at the table to understand just how bad this is going to be for you guys.
Yeah. That works. That does work.
Absolutely it works. It sucks to be at a table on a big bubble where someone is, or especially even worse when 2 guys are just trying to win every pot. And you're sitting back there and you only have like 14 blinds. I've been in this spot in the main event, 15 blinds, and you're just sitting there and you're like, I don't have any room to maneuver. Like, even if I shove, it's already been bet and raised. Like, they're calling some really high percentage of the time. Even if they don't love their hand, they're going to call a lot. Like, this sucks. I actually I'm forced to wait to pick up a real hand, and I still have people behind me. Like, it's horrible. So this is a spot where the buy-in is bigger, so the bubble is bigger. These guys have more money probably, than like your average main event person on the bubble. But still, the money's so much bigger. And
it's a bigger buy-in. This is probably very meaningful to these players.
I would think it is. It is. Like if Ossi didn't think this was meaningful, he probably wouldn't attack it, right?
Yeah. So he makes it 210 with the 5-3 of hearts. Okay. And to his credit, like, Badziakouski probably doesn't even consider raising with queens, right? Like, what are you really going to... I guess if you are trying to wrest control from the other guy who's trying to have control. But like, why do that with queens when what are you going to do if you get shoved on? You're just going to fold, I guess.
I mean, if we're 4-betting queens, we should call it off. We should only be 4-betting against a guy who we plan on calling it off against. I think in this spot specifically, right? Otherwise, we should call. We have a surprisingly strong hand. We're also out of position, which makes the 4-betting a little tougher potentially to play. If he flats our 4-bet and now we're out of position, it's just harder. It's harder either way, but at least we kept the pot smaller. We've got way more maneuverability. We can see the flop. There's a lot of flops where we might just dump queens pretty quickly. Maybe not on the flop, but if it comes ace, king, X, we might check fold. We might call once, but we won't put a lot more chips in. This gives an opportunity to get some more information. I think mostly I'm just calling here unless the guy is... If I know this guy is constantly bullying the bubble, sure, we could put in a 4-bet and plan on going with it. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty much obvious call.
It just, once again, as we've seen over and over again in poker and on this podcast, it shows the power of aggression on the bubble. That's just like, all the points you make sense, but it's like, we have the third best hand in poker, and it's just like, we're just going to call and hope it works out okay.
I know. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. But that's what happens. Badziakouski calls, and that's what I would do. We're 60 blinds effective here. There's like a very small stack somewhere, probably multiple small stacks.
Right.
But in particular, one that is like notable to the announcers.
Are you going with kings here, or are you just calling kings also?
I don't know, man. It might be the same situation.
I think I'm more apt to just go with kings. For the meta game implications as much as anything else, I don't want to only have like one or two hands that I'm 4-betting in a spot. Like, I feel like we can 4-bet ace king a little bit more than queens. Yeah. Because we've got such good blockers. But I mean, it sucks. It all sucks because if you get crammed on, you really want to, like, kings you can call with at least pretty comfortably, even though sometimes you're screwed. But whatever. That's unlikely at least. Like queens, there's a lot more bad things. Ace king is a problem, and that it's a flip, which we don't love being in this spot. We'll take it, but we don't love it. Obviously, kings and aces are also be there. That's a lot more combos than kings have to deal with. Yeah,
I mean, we could decide to 4-bet queens and also 4-bet our like normal 4-betting range that's not on the bubble, like add in a couple ace wheel suited type hands.
Yeah.
But then we have to call off with queens because we're going to
Absolutely.
Either way,
I think I'm going with kings here against a guy who I have a suspicion is very aggressive.
I mean, he's got a Finnish flag next to his name. You got to go with queens.
Yeah.
That's just the rule.
No, kings. I said kings. Yeah.
Oh, but you got to go with kings. Yeah.
Queens we have to call.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just wrong. Maybe we have to go with queens too, but fuck it. Right now we're calling.
Well, Mikita Badziakouski goes for the call, which feels easy compared to everything else. It's just like
so easy.
We just get to be exploited a little bit. That's just how it is. Right. That's just the way it works in the situation where we're under the gun. That's why under the gun is the worst position.
Come play with us on Clubs Poker. They have tournaments, they have ring games, and a 100% bonus if you use the code POKERGUYS or use our link in the description.
It is a lot of fun on Clubs. I have been playing on Clubs, and I have been genuinely impressed by their software. They have great games all the time, and redemptions go direct to your bank account. There's no crypto involved, none of that BS. It's a US-based company. Come play with us on Clubs. We'll see you there. 520K in the pot. Flop is ace of clubs, 4 of spades, 9 of spades. Two spades out there. Obviously, the ace looms large.
Yeah.
Sucks for bads.
I mean, how are we going to win this pot as Badziakouski? We need this guy to have jacks and just shut it down. That's like the only way we win, right?
Well, it goes check. So let's talk about Ossi Ketola checking back on this flop because I think it's fascinating. Because he actively chose to 3-bet the 5-3 of hearts. He got a flop that should maybe not favor him in this exact situation, but certainly he has a lot of strong hands on this flop. And he has a gut shot. So there's like a little bit of an escape valve in case he has to continue on further streets.
Yeah.
So what's your best guess as to Ossi's plan here and his thinking behind it?
To be clear, I do not know what he's going to do on 4th and 5th Street yet. I have not seen the hand. So it's really a guess. I'm very surprised he doesn't bet this. Maybe he thinks Badziakouski is going to play more face up on the turn. Like if Badziakouski has a hand like queens, he's going to check again. But if he has a hand with an ace in it, he's more apt to bet. I don't know if that's really true, though. It's Badziakouski, right? He's not going to play super face up. He's probably checking most of his range on the turn. And if he bets, by the way, he might be betting the parts of his range that, you know, not this hand, but that a lot of our range can actually beat, potentially. It's hard to know. So I'm very surprised. Maybe he just thinks this isn't as favorable a flop as we would automatically think because it's ace high. Mikita's got a lot of, I mean, what does Mikita have in his calling range here? Maybe ace jack suited, ace queen, and ace king? Does he have any other aces in his hand?
Maybe ace 10 suited.
Maybe not, though. He might just dump it in this exact spot if there's a two blind stack. But maybe not. Maybe he's just calling against the crazy guy and like wants to see a flop too. Yeah, you were deep enough. He could really call that. And it sucks to play out of position, but whatever.
My thought is that Ossi he might be fancy play syndroming it a little bit, but I think he might be thinking that Bads is pair heavy. He has a lot of hands that are like 10s through queens, maybe some 7s and 6s and stuff like that a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to like do a good job of representing like his ace wheel 3-bets and his ace queen and ace king hands. And he's thinking like, I would check those on this flop a lot of the time because there's not a ton of value in betting them.
Right. Yeah, you bet tiny with your ace king and like you mostly get folds in theory. I don't know if in reality that's true when you're playing against Mikita. If he's got like a pair in his hand that's big, he's probably calling once.
Yeah.
If we bet small. So I am surprised still that he doesn't do it just to start to define the hand, define his own range, even though it'd be like a sneaky thing to do because of his actual hand, and define Mikita's. I'm still a little surprised, even with what you just said. And I understand the idea of, maybe we're checking back our good aces here. Maybe we just have a lot of aces. And so because we have so many, we're actually checking our aces because ace king and ace queen make up a small amount of them instead of a big amount of our aces. Maybe.
Yeah, and he might think that he's checking back a set of aces too because he's like, I have the board crushed. Like, let's hope something good can happen here.
We can always represent massive strength later in the hand. We still can absolutely have a set of aces, like you're saying, right? We much more so that Mikita can have it, but it's less likely, for sure. So we can decide to be strong later. We can raise later if we want. You know, if Mikita decides to put in a bet with his ace jack or something like that, and make it very hard on him anyway. So maybe that's part of the idea. I don't know. Like we still have to put in chips to win this pot, unless we're going to spike a magical gutter. We're still going to have to do it. So I would have always thought on this board he was betting.
Yeah, I would have thought so too. But it's a very interesting check back. That's what he does. He obviously has plans for later.
And he's obviously very successful, right? So he knows what he's doing. So this is interesting.
The turn is the jack of hearts. It's now ace of clubs, 4 of spades, 9 of spades, jack of hearts.
Okay.
All right, as Badziakouski, how are you assessing the situation? The jack is not necessarily a good card against the check back range.
Nope. Ace Jack, which was already there anyway, is beating us. It feels even better about his hand. Not that we're going to try and bluff him anyway, but really Jack Jack is, of course, the problem. That really could have checked that flop, really could have 3-bet, and now is beating the shit out of us, right? Not great.
If I'm Badziakouski on the flop and it goes check, check, I'm just thinking like, okay, I'm either losing a lot, but really what I don't want to see is a jack or a 10. Like those are the two cards I most don't want to see.
Those are the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those hands have zoomed in front. And so jacks are now beating us. It's not great. I think we just have a very clear check once again here. We want to keep the pot small anyway based on our hand and the board and the situation. Feels like a clear check.
Badziakouski bets 100K.
So he bets 2.5 blinds. So he's betting super small, almost like a blocker bet.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's like saying like, hey, let's get to showdown really cheap.
Hey, buddy, can we just chill on this? Can we just chill for a bit on this guy?
Yeah.
Can we just not do this?
It's another way. I mean, checking, often we're going to see a bigger bet than that on the turn, right? So, and if he's thinking he's going to call that bet anyway, this is like a cheaper way to go. And it's going to be hard for Ossi to raise him with most hands, right? Because Mikita can have Jack-Jack, of course. So if Ossi has ace-ace or jack-jack, he can raise. If he has ace-jack exactly, I guess he could raise that too if he wanted to. But I don't know if he's raising any of those things in practice, but he could. But maybe Mikita thinks like, I can find out where I am a little bit. I don't think Ossi's going to have weird bluffs here now that I'm betting since I can have jack-jack so easily and even ace-jack suited. There's things I can have here that are never leaving. So maybe he's just trying to get, I think this is his way. It's like you check to get to showdown cheap, but I think he's betting to get to showdown cheap.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And now you're Ossi.
Right.
So he's bet a fifth of the pot. And we have the 5 high, and we 3-bet pre-flop. And we had this big plan, probably. We're not just going to fold now, right? That can't be the plan.
No, we're never folding.
What's the plan? How are we going about this?
Okay, again, I don't know what Ossi really does, but I think the plan should be some version of call here and look to bet and or raise rivers, like be aggressive on the river. It's going to look the strongest, which I love. Once in a while, that magical gutter slides in and we actually get there. That's amazing if it does. But a raise now after the check is weird, and I don't know that we're going to fold out top pair so easily. Maybe we will, maybe not. But if we call here and raise the river, unless Mikita has jacks exactly or aces exactly, maybe ace-jack. It's going to be really hard for him to hold on. But ace-queen, I think ace-queen's more apt to hold on if we raise now than later. So I like just a call now. It's also cheap. We get to see what Mikita does on the river. If Mikita bombs the hell out of it, we can just fold. That's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's what he does. He calls.
Cool.
The pot is 720K. The river makes Ossi's story a little harder, but maybe a little bit more believable. It's the ace of hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's ace of clubs, 4 of spades, 9 of spades, jack of hearts, ace of hearts. Mikita's got queens. Ossi has 5 high. So how do you want to do this as bad? Should we try to go for a little value against 10s exactly? Or weirdly played jack 10 suited?
No, we should not. If we bet again, those hands are folding a lot. Aren't they? With the ace pairing, and we bet again in a 3-bet pot. We open from under the gun. We have so many trip aces here. I don't think we should bet. I think it's very hard to get value. If we're betting to fold out kings. We're not betting, I think, to get called by 10s or a random jack, I think. I think we should check. We sometimes have the best hand. We sometimes don't. It's unclear. Like, maybe Ossi has like king jack suited or something like that. Like you said, jack 10 suited, and we just get to win at show. It just goes check, check, and we win. Maybe he's got 10s and it goes check, check, and we win sometimes. Maybe we can try and pick off a bluff depending on what it looks like and what we want to do. I don't know. We should, we've got a really good bluff catcher. I don't know. Is Ossi even going to bet kings for value if we check? I don't know. Probably not. I'm not sure. I think it's a check. What do you think?
That's my first thought too, but Badziakouski finds the third path.
Really?
He bets 60K into 720.
So is he doing the thing? He's trying to have it all, right? He's trying to get called by worse because they just pocket tens or a jack will just throw in 60K, right? It just has to.
Yeah.
Unless it gets cute. But we can now talk ourselves into a call more obviously because we've induced sometimes now, right? So it's an easy, like he's going to we're putting more bluffs back into the range by betting 60K if we get raised. Instead, if we make a normal bet and we get raised, there's less bluffs there, right? That's what he's doing. What a third path. Wow. That's
now
cool.
This puts a bit of a wrench into Ossi's plan, right? It's like Ossi was thinking probably, okay, Bads is going to check and I'm going to bet 600K, or Bads is going to bet 350 and I'm going to make it 1.2 million and see if he can call. You know?
Or Bads is going to bet, pot and I'm just going to fold.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a big wrench, really, though. It's not that different than a check, really. I mean, except that Mikita may talk himself into the fact that he's induced.
It adds a dynamic. It adds a dynamic to the situation.
A small dynamic, yeah. Like if Mikita checks, though, it was going to be about the same either way, right? We were going to bet. I think we have to raise. Obviously, we're never calling and folding. I mean, I guess we could just fold.
We could just fold. We could just fold.
We could.
It's just like
a breakdown hand. I'm sure we're
thing.
not going to fold. It's a breakdown hand. Right? It's a pride thing, right?
I think maybe more players need to find folds in spots like this. Because it's like the price gets in your head. It's like a pride thing. The price doesn't matter when you have 5 high. It's,
right.
just let it be. But, they're maybe raising is the better play. Obviously calling is not the play. So,
I mean, it's all different depending on who you're playing against, of course, right?
Yeah.
But like sometimes the calling with a bad hand with a good price really can work out when people bet that little. Like I had a guy, this is a very quick aside, it was in the cash game, admittedly. It was a 5-5 game. He bet $5 into like 200 on the river, 3 ways. After the first guy checked, I called with jack high for $5, thinking like I'm good enough for the time. The other guy overcalled, and I still won the whole pot. So obviously different situations, different kinds of players.
Third nut low, so
right. He can't call, of course. But you're just saying sometimes you just have to fold them. Like if you're getting a good enough price, you just don't have to win that much. Is my point. But obviously Ossi's never winning, like you're saying with this hand. So it's raise or fold. I'm inclined to raise here. Mikita's just all he's done is put out 2 blocking bets. He's not shown any really big strength. He might have a bad trip aces. He might have a hand like kings or queens or a jack in his hand. He might have jacks full. He might have ace jack also, of course. But those aren't that likely, you know. There are not that many combos of those things. I think we're supposed to attack this. If we're not going to attack this, what the fuck have we been doing this whole hand? Like, what are we doing here if we're not attacking this?
Well, it doesn't
How did we get here.
Again, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, you just make the best decision at the moment.
Of course. But if our plan was to steal and we thought Mikita was a good guy to attack, he did a tiny bet on the turn and an even smaller bet on the river on a somewhat scary board.
But we can't really interpret that at face value against a player as elite as Mikita Badziakouski. He's one of the best tournament players in the world.
Sure, but some of the time it's going to be honest, right? Because if it's always dishonest, that doesn't work either. Mikita's going to be somewhat balanced here, admittedly. But like, we can have quad aces, we can have ace jack, we can have ace king, we can have ace queen, and have played it like this for sure. I think we'd probably raise all of those, right? Obviously quad aces. Jack, I think we would raise that as well, because what does Mikita have?
I think we have to raise jack.
Yeah. We need to have some bluffs. Boy, this hand's a good candidate for a bluff. This is probably a better candidate than most, right?
Yes.
Because what are we going to... I guess if we had jack 10, maybe that's a better candidate for a bluff because we block ace jack.
I think king queen is probably the best bluff. Blocking ace king and ace queen.
Oh, okay. We also block kings and queens, but okay. It doesn't matter, I guess. And also if we have jack 10, maybe that's a bad candidate because we can just call for this price and chop/win enough of the time that it's probably okay.
Yeah.
Probably.
The thing
anyway,
that sucks
5 high is a pretty good candidate to raise. That's all I'm saying.
The thing that sucks for Ossi, which he has had a part in engineering post-flop, is that there's no longer the bubble threat. We can't really do anything about the bubble threat anymore.
Right.
Unless we want to do the most insane thing ever and jam like 2.3 million over 60K.
We don't want to. That's so dumb. It's so absurd. Mikita's going to call with all his trip aces, which he has too many of to do that. Right.
So at this point, like, we're playing a normal hand that's kind of doesn't have anything to do with the bubble because Mikita's going to be okay no matter what happens, basically.
That's fascinating. It's so weird to give up that part of the leverage when you did the 3-bet with 5 high against the under-the-gun range of a top player. It's very weird to have decided all this. Maybe he thinks this is going to be the best story he can possibly tell, but I hope so. Anyway, I'm believing a raise must be incoming because he ain't going to call and it's a breakdown hand. So he must be raising, right?
There is. So I think it's an interesting thing to discuss before we talk about the size of the raise. How do we want to size it and why?
Yep, exactly. Okay, we want to look like we're trying to get called by trip aces, right? By worse trip aces. So we can go big because trip aces, in theory, probably have to call against us, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that like there's also the mindset that Ossi could have of like, I slow played a monster here. I want to make up for missed value, sort of. Yep. So like I can make it 1.2 million here, and it's reasonable. You know?
Yep. Also, if we had one of these super strong hands, we might go big because it looks bluffier.
Yeah.
And we want to get... So all that said, I think all the reasons, everything points to let's go big here, in my mind.
I hear you. Ossi really trusts the story that he's telling, and he makes it 425.
Oh my God, this guy's incredible.
Yeah.
This guy is playing this hand so bizarre. He 3-bets 5-3. He checks the flop. I understand that just call on the turn, and now we're going small again. How much is in the pot when he makes it 4?
It's 780 in the pot after Mikita's bet.
Wow. He's really saying, I've fucking got it.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy, the thing that's so crazy is, like you said, we've let the bubble pressure completely out of the pan here. There's no air pressure at all. Mikita can call with his queens and be wrong, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's 11 blinds to find out how we're doing here. You know, the pots, Mikita's getting a reasonable price here. Right, he's getting like 3-1 almost.
There's got to be a psychological metagame thing going on between these guys over the course of this tournament.
Probably, or maybe other tournaments as well, for all we know. Okay, what do you think about this sizing? I know you know what happens, but try and get that out of your head. What do you think about this sizing?
I think it's fascinating because, like, let's take Badziakouski's actual hand right now, queens. This might be a significantly better chip EV raise than 1.2 million. We might get called at a frequency at 1.2 million that's slightly less than when we make it 425, but not enough less that 425 is far more profitable from a chip EV perspective.
Maybe. We have to be sure. I mean, this we have to be sure that this folds out a hand like King Jack suited and stuff like that. If Mikita can even have that. Would Mikita even have that? Would he have a Jack that isn't Ace Jack here on this particular spot?
I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't know either. So maybe there aren't any Jacks to attack because obviously Ace Jack is not a good hand to attack since it's the nuts. So then what are we hoping he has that he's going to fold? Tens? Nines?
Queens,
I guess,
and kings. Tens, queens, and kings.
I guess Mikita could actually have other pocket pairs lower than that too because we checked the flop and he got to bet the turn and we just called. So
yeah, he's trying to he's really trying to block
sevens?
with eights. Yeah,
I don't know. So maybe it's just a really cheap way to get to showdown a bunch with eights. I don't know.
It could be. It really could be.
Yeah. I think you're right that this probably doesn't have 1/3 of the fold equity that 1.2 million would have or so. So that makes this a better bet than 1.2 million because you're getting some of that fold equity because the story is pretty strong when he goes little like that. But as Mikita, let's shift to Mikita Badziakouski's mindset for a second. We bet small. Part of it is to induce, right? Now, maybe we're not calling with this part of our range to induce. Maybe we are. I'm not sure. I would think mostly not because we probably have a bunch of trip aces. But we probably like it in theory that he doesn't go super huge when we're inducing, except it looks stronger, not weaker when he does it. So it's a better math price. It's a worse story price, if you will.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Mikita goes through all of his time banks before making a decision.
Wow.
So
that's already awesome that he's really considering calling clearly.
Yeah.
So whatever he does, good for him.
The stuff that he says when he's talking it through on the river is like, I really hope you don't have kings here. I guess he thinks that Ossi's capable of having kings.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
making this
Because
raise.
it's a $60K bet. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, I guess I just can't beat any value, obviously, but you could just have two random cards, right? You could have two random cards. That's what he starts saying to Ossi. Yeah.
Wow. He's going to find a call, isn't he?
It really looks like he's going to fold for a very long time. He's got the cards up and he's flipping through them. He's like, these cards, I keep looking at them. They don't get any better. He keeps saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then very near that end of his last time bank, he does make the call.
Yeah. Yeah. He did. I mean, we got the check back. He bet small. He did get the inducing. It is a relatively great price from a math point of view, from a price point, from your how many chips I have left point of view. If I lose and if I'm wrong, he's getting a good odds thing. He doesn't need to have that much equity, like 25% or something in the pot. That's kind of cool too. As he said, it's hard to imagine any value you're beating at all. Like King Jack is, I don't think raising. I don't think. I could see him doing it also to draw a line in the sand, not just for this tournament, but for future tournaments.
Yeah.
Like everything. I'm just not going to let you do this to me forever. It's okay if you have it here. I need you to see that you can't just get me to fold queens just because you breathe on the pot, That's probably the most valuable part of this in some ways, because these guys are going to play a bunch more 100Ks together. They, I think, probably played all these 100Ks that Ossi's been cashing in, which is 4 of them in a month period. So they're probably playing these a lot with each other. So drawing a line in the sand means Ossi may not attack Mikita so much and attack other people in these spots, which would be much easier for Mikita if Ossi's going to be more face up, right?
Yeah.
So there's such metagame value in this call, and it's cheap, and maybe we even win sometimes. That when I say all that, I'm like, oh, we have to call. We just have to now.
And it was kind of unclear where Mikita falls in his distribution, because a player like Mikita is going to have a very specific range that he does these multiple blocker bets with, and I don't really know what that range is. So
yeah,
it would be hard for us to make a distribution assessment on that. So I'm not going to, and let's just assume that he's high enough in his distribution that it's okay.
I mean, my guess is he's not, because he's got so many aces.
Perhaps, but maybe he doesn't go double block with those.
Maybe you're right. Okay. Got to be so good to do it, though, against this guy.
Yeah.
But it's cool that he used all his time banks, too. I kind of love that he really, really put himself through the paces there. It's great. Good for Mikita.
Yeah.
Great. Good job. I feel like if Ossi just played this, quote, normally, i.e. bet the flop, bet the turn, bet the river if necessary, he's just going to win this so much more because he can put actual pressure on Mikita's whole stack. And bubble and $160,000 and all that stuff, and that's going to be way harder for Mikita.
I mean, in a way, it's like a really baller move from Ossi to be like, who cares about the bubble, right? I'm just playing this hand as a super value hand. Deal with it, you know? I
mean, his strategy, and it's been working. This guy has almost $4 million in cashes in 5 tournaments, and none of them are more than 120K buy-in. And his biggest cash is like, I think 2 million, or maybe it's 2.9, but I think it's 2 million. So he's been cashing a bunch in a bunch of places. By the way, in this tournament, he's going to cash for 1.2 million. He's going to finish, I think, 5th or something. Like, he's so committed to the story, and that's clearly been working for him in these high roller events, right? Even though it didn't work this time, it's clearly working for him. And so maybe that's the real thing. Like, all this bubble stuff that we feel works so well, maybe it doesn't work as well against a guy like Mikita. I would think it would in this exact situation, but we're not talking about this exact situation, really. We're talking about range versus range, and something that's more repeatable for Ossi. And telling the story has clearly been working for him, telling these really good stories against good players who can put those stories together.
Yeah, so he cashes for 1.2 million. What does Badziakouski do in this tournament?
He does pretty well. He gets, I don't have it in front of me, but it was like 400K, 500K. Okay. So not nearly as good, but not a min cash.
Okay. Cool hand.
Yeah, really cool hand. Great hand. Who suggested this hand?
Oh, yeah, Zach M. Sorry, Zach. Got you in at the end.
It's okay. Hey, you know what else we didn't do? We didn't even mention Clubs Poker and our Poker Guys code and the 100% deposit.
Well, our long-suffering intern is going to insert that, obviously.
Oh, of course he is.
The people will have already heard that, and now they'll be like, what the hell is Jonathan talking about?
Right. Luckily, they already saw that and heard that, obviously, and we didn't mention
You're all safe. You're all free to enter Clubs Poker. Don't worry about what Jonathan said. It's great.
Sorry. I messed it up. I screwed it up.
It's just like every other day.
You are a sunlight.
Music is my sunlight, and all I need is one mic, and I can show every single MC how it's done right. Every time I come by, I'm bound to leave them tongue-tied. I'm sipping on liquor, a quitter is what I'm not. We got one life, and I took a minor break, but I'm back to claim the throne. And gonna be traveling the globe, and still have time to make it home. And you gonna meet